Hi, my name is Todd Callahan, and I am back to do a follow-up on my mini documentary about mobile payments. If you have not watched it, I'll leave a link in the description, but to keep it simple, I went over the differences between the mobile payments in China and the United States. For a while, I've wanted to do another mini documentary following up on it because, well, a lot has changed since 2018. So in this video, I will first go over how the United States has been progressing regarding mobile payments, and in the second half, I'll talk about China and where things have been starting to get interesting. While not much in mobile payments has changed in China, there has been a tech crackdown which has forced some of the companies to open up, and the government has been testing their own digital currency, which will become a big focus over the next decade. Let's get started. Back in 2018, America was not in the best spot in regards to mobile payments. Yes, Apple Pay was big and started to get traction in some stores, but Google still had multiple services, making it too cluttered on what Android users should use, and some companies were still hesitant to accept these mobile payment services. Well, then in 2020, the worldwide pandemic started, and there was a push needed for people and companies to accept mobile payments. See, when there is a pandemic and you need as little contact with people as possible, turns out mobile payments are the best way to do that, and companies had no issue making the changes needed to accept them. Now the list of companies that accept Apple Pay include Best Buy, BJ's, Costco, Dunkin' Donuts, Foot Locker, Forever 21, GameStop, Kohl's, Macy's, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, Sephora, Target, Walgreens, Whole Foods, and many others. The difference compared to before the pandemic is there were still some big holdouts like Target. That's all changed. It's not just Apple Pay as well. Around the time the first video was released, Google made some changes and combined Android Pay and Google Wallet into one service, called Google Pay. At its most basic function, it acts like Apple Pay by being able to do mobile payments in stores, but they also have built out the app to have other features, like paying your friends and family, and keeping a track of your spending. What has helped Google Pay take off besides consolidating the services is that companies also started to support it when they added support for Apple Pay during the pandemic. Since both use NFC for transactions, and you are adding support for one, might as well for the other, right? For the third option on mobile payments, there is Samsung Pay. Not much has changed, except that they are working with Common Trust to allow users to add their vaccine card to the app. This, while nice for the people who use Samsung Pay, doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, as with iOS 15, Apple is now allowing iPhone users to add theirs, and Android has also added the ability itself. This is on top of different states having their own apps for it. And to give some context with the user numbers, as of 2021, Apple Pay is in first place in America with 43.9 million users, Google Pay in second with 25 million, and with 16.3 million, Samsung Pay is in third place. One thing all of these COVID vaccine passports use is a QR code that can be scanned. Now, besides the rise in support of mobile payments in stores, America has also seen an increase in QR codes. The most common use of a QR code before the pandemic was to go to a website, or if you wanted to show off, scan your boarding pass from your phone. Thanks to the pandemic now, they are being used for proof of vaccination, an increased use of boarding passes, and a very common use case is to see a restaurant menu. This is another change caused by the pandemic, as you need to have as little contact as possible. So when restaurants were able to reopen, instead of handing out the same used menus, they put out a nice sticker on a table with a QR code, you scan it, and you pull up the menu on your phone. Besides now handling menus, there is one popular app in America that is using QR codes the same way people in China use them with Alipay or WeChat Pay, and that is Venmo. Over the last few years, PayPal has developed and grown Venmo, which has become one of the biggest mobile payment apps for people. It's mostly used to send money between friends and family, pay rent, and stuff like that. However, one of the common ways to add people is by scanning their Venmo QR code. Not only that, recently since the pandemic, stores have slowly started to add Venmo as a payment method. CVS became the first store in America back at the end of 2020 to accept Venmo via its QR code. Since then, more and more stores are accepting Venmo either via its QR code or if you have a Venmo debit card. These stores include Walmart, Target, and Foot Locker. So while paying for goods and services in America via QR codes is not mainstream just yet, it's now officially here and growing. PayPal has been smart with the transition to mobile payments in America. For a long time, it was just known as the payment processor for eBay. But since it was split off from them back in 2015, they have gone all in on not just being a dominant leader in America, but by also being a player in other markets in the world as well, including China. Like I said earlier, PayPal has grown Venmo into one of the biggest apps for payments, having now 52 million users in America alone at the end of 2020. That is up from 23 million at the end of 2018. As for the PayPal app itself, it's also getting a lot of work done on it as well. Besides being able to send money to people with it, PayPal looks to be more focused on having that app become their all-in-one payment super app, similar to Alipay. Right now, they are building out shopping by having a selection for deals, being able to add loyalty cards, and also manage other finances as well. Right now, it would not be a payment app in America if it did not support some crypto, which it does now, and for 2022 is also looking to be able to buy and sell stocks. So, to keep in mind for the future, the PayPal app is the all-in-one payment app, Venmo is the keep it simple app. As for China, well, I was not kidding that they were making moves there, one of the few foreign companies to be able to do so as well. At the beginning of 2021, it was announced that PayPal bought out the rest of a small payment processing company in China called GoPay. This meant it became the first foreign company in China to fully own a payment processing platform. GoPay does have licenses for mobile and online transactions, and while not a huge platform, it is a foot in the door for the company, something no one else has been able to do yet. Another mobile payment app that has grown since 2018 is Cash, owned by Block. Block, which mostly focuses on hardware for small businesses to handle credit cards and mobile payments, has grown their Cash app into a business that can almost rival Venmo. Like Venmo, it offers an easy way to receive and send money from people, but it also includes the ability to buy stocks, crypto, and even set up your direct deposits to go there. Right now, just looking at features, the Cash app is closer to Venmo, PayPal, than to being similar to a mobile payment app in China, and it also has a good amount of users. At the end of 2020, Cash had 36 million users, compared to the 15 million at the end of 2018. There is an important issue the app is dealing with, and that is not a lot of stores accept payment via the Cash app. Right now, if you want to use the Cash app for most stores, you will need the Cash card, which uses Visa. While the Cash app does support paying for goods via QR codes, the only major support is from Block's own hardware, so you need to find businesses that use it, not the most convenient. As for support for Chinese payment apps in America, well, that has stalled out. Back in 2018, there was some growth with some merchants like CVS accepting Alipay, as well as some luxury outlet stores. However, toward the end of 2020 and into 2021, the Trump administration started to focus on trying to ban some Chinese apps like WeChat, and in the final weeks of his administration, approved an executive order banning Chinese payment apps from operating in the country. The order was set to take effect in 45 days, so it would have been after he left office. However, it never did become law. Between multiple lawsuits over the executive orders, it was stopped by judges, and in June of 2021, President Biden rescinded the orders. So yes, right now the places that accept Alipay and WeChat Pay can continue to do so. However, I think it'll be a while before more companies accept them as payment options. So as we can see since 2018, mobile payments in America have grown substantially. It is now more common for people to use Apple Pay or Google Pay to purchase items either online or in stores, and thanks to apps like Venmo and Cash, QR codes are now starting to get a foothold in this country as well. However, while some big players are set, there is still room for growth. The fintech industry is still growing, and if the banking industry is smart, they will try to work with them to get ahead of the competition. Now that we have caught up with how mobile payments are growing in America, let's go back to where they are still huge, China. Up until around 2020, there was really nothing to report in China, as things were about the same as they were in 2018. However, since then, two things have happened. First, the Chinese government cracking down on tech companies, and the development and testing of the digital yuan. Let's start with the tech crackdown first, and to be more specific, Alipay. Alipay is part of Ant Group, which is a part of Alibaba. Toward the end of 2020, Ant Group was getting ready to have their IPO, initial public offering, and investors were going crazy for it, with Ant Group possibly getting up to $34 billion in new funding. However, the IPO never happened, as it was pulled right before launch. This was due to regulators saying it did not meet the requirements. While that was it for 2020, 2021 brought a crackdown on the entire tech industry in China. This included multiple investigations and fines the companies had to pay. As for Ant Group, their biggest change was how it was regulated. Up until 2021, Ant Group behaved a lot like how other fintech companies do around the world, as a tech company and not a financial institution. Because of this, they were able to do more and more without having to follow all of the banking regulations other institutions like Bank of China had to follow. That has now changed, as they announced in early 2021 that Ant Group will restructure to function more as a financial institution and will follow financial regulations. As a part of this, in April 2021, Ant Group applied to become a financial holding company. Besides following financial regulations, Ant Group is also clarifying their services as well, and even spinning some off. For Ant Group, a lot of their revenue came from microloans, and they had two offerings for it: Jibi for big purchases, in Huabe for smaller purchases. How it worked was you can go into the Alipay app, apply for one of these loans, and get approved almost instantly. Ant Group themselves, though, did not offer these loans through their company, but instead most were serviced by a third-party bank. As part of these changes over the past year, Ant Group can still offer these microloans, but now clarify who is actually lending the money. So, when you apply for a microloan, it will say if it is being financed through a third-party bank or from Ant directly. As for spinning off, part of Ant Group's restructuring is to also create a new personal credit scoring company. As for now, it is still in the process of being created, but right now Ant Group will own 35%, Zhejiang Tourism Investment Group will own another 35%, and the rest will be split up between other smaller companies. The purpose of this company is that the financial data they have on their customers will now be managed by this new credit scoring company. Before, Ant has been reluctant in sharing most of that data with other credit scoring companies and regulators. Now, with the data being managed by this new credit scoring company, financial regulators will have an easier time viewing it when needed. Zooming out from just focusing on Ant Group and Alipay, the Chinese government has also focused as part of their crackdown that the mobile payment market was dominated by only two players, Alipay and WeChat Pay. One way they have managed this is by having their QR codes only work within their app. For example, if you're using WeChat, you cannot scan an Alipay QR code to make a payment and vice versa. And right now that is still the case. However, things are opening up with UnionPay, the major credit card processor in the country. As of August 2021, WeChat Pay supports UnionPay QR codes and vice versa. As for Alipay, well, as of October, the same feature is enabled in some cities, and plans by the end of March 2022 to have it rolled out across the country, and with support for offline payments. That is how the current players in mobile payments have been in China, but the big development is not the crackdowns or the forcing of the companies to play nice, but instead, it's development of a digital currency. Over the past few years, China has been developing a digital yuan, or eCNY. Right now it is currently in the testing phase, and what this means is that in select cities, Chinese citizens can download the app for the digital currency, open up a wallet, and start using it. To entice people to try it out, the government has been offering free cash via lotteries. How does it work? Well, it works a lot like how mobile payments work now. The wallet for the digital currency has a QR code and can also scan for one. If a merchant supports the digital currency, then it's scan, pay, done. The digital currency is just like regular currency and is issued by the People's Bank of China, not to be confused with the Bank of China, but depending on who you ask, there are potential benefits. For merchants, the benefit here is that they would not have to deal with third-party payment companies like Tencent and Ant Group. When someone is paying with the digital yuan, it's like they're paying with cash. Now, like I said earlier, this is still in testing, and while support for it has grown a lot in 2021, it is not widespread in China, and the government has not said when a full rollout will happen. Here are the latest stats for the digital yuan. As of November 2021, around 140 million people have downloaded, set up the wallet for the digital yuan, and made a transaction. For transactions so far, around 9.7 billion have been sent back and forth for payments and purchases, and that is a lot of people. But, just to compare it to WeChat and Alipay, they both currently have over 700 million people using their apps. As for merchants supporting it, there are 1.55 million that do so, and the biggest right now is JD.com, which set up support for the digital yuan right before the big Singles Day sale this year. After the sales event, the company said 100,000 people used the digital yuan to pay for their goods. While the digital yuan is slowly working its way toward an official rollout across the country, whenever that will be, it is not exactly clear how it will coexist with the mobile payment apps already available. The government has said that it is not in direct competition with Alipay or WeChat Pay, as it simply is another form of currency issued by the central bank. So far, some Alipay users have been able to test out using digital yuan for purchases in Alipay over the past few months, but not for person-to-person transfers. My assumption here is once this new currency is fully rolled out and all payment apps support it, it will just be up to the citizens to use what they prefer. I do not think China will force people to use the app from the state-sponsored banks, as they will want as many people as possible to use it, so that means they need to be able to have it available to use everywhere. So we have reached the end of the mini documentary, and there was a lot to go through. America, thanks in part to the global pandemic, has decided to step up its support of mobile payments, which is great to see, but it still has some ways to go. As with China, the government is working on mobile payments on two fronts. First, cracking down on the tech giants like Tencent and Ant Group to open up mobile payments, as well as they start to develop their own digital currency. While China will be the first, they most certainly will not be the last. The news and speed of how they have developed their own digital currency has caused other governments to start to look into it as well. Both the United States and Europe have started looking to developing their own digital currency, but it'll be at least 4 to 5 years before those come out, as they're only starting to look into it now. And they're not even at the testing phase. Still, with all of this news, it's quite clear the major development for mobile payments around the world for the next decade is digital currency. How will legacy banks, employers, and businesses support it? Will there be a backlash from the public about it? These are questions no one right now has an answer to. As for mobile payments themselves, well, there is still room for growth in America and even in Europe, and I think they will continue to do so. I look forward to talking about those updates and more when I produce another mini documentary going over mobile payments in America and China. Thank you for watching.